Howdy! I've been saying that here because of a certain Mr. Morrison who's with us. When I sort of get home, I think I'll return to normal. Okay, I promise. To me, this person here is called Moulin, or Moulin Rouge. You've watched the movie, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure you've watched the movie. If you haven't, you should watch Moulin Rouge. Well, if you're of the right age, of course. Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. there's that as well. Yeah. Moulin Rouge to me, Kanga to some. What else is there? There are many. You got a few nicknames.
Rougie.
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 Yeah. Suppose red could be it, because rouge, in French, rouge means red.
Yeah. You talk about Danny Morrison, he once called me Teeth.
Oh, yes.
Just teeth?
Dentist. So I suppose that's kind of where that comes from. What else would there be? Yeah, Doc, I suppose.
Yeah.
That would be about right.
Well, and sticks when you're not wearing a helmet and someone's bound to.
Yeah, well, there you
Comes
go.
in.
Okay, so many a nickname. Lovely to work with her each time in the cons box. What I want to find out from you, Rouge, as we start, is how you got into the game. If you can tell them a story, tell me a story. And I haven't asked this before, by the way. I don't actually know. So how and why did you get into the game?
Well, the simple answer to the why is that you eat, sleep and breathe cricket in Pakistan, because it's the one sport, at least in the 90s, we were a big side with big superstars, Imran Khan and the 92 World Cup. So it was a household thing, like whether it was a family lunch or just an evening, if you're a 94-year-old grandmother or young kids, mothers, everybody. The entire activity was cricket centric. So that's what you did. And I still remember exactly where I sat. It was in my uncle's room, watching that 92 World Cup, South Africa versus Pakistan game. Jaunty Rhodes fly in horizontal, smash those 3 stumps to run, well, in Zimam out. And that just stuck. And then obviously Pakistan went on to win the World Cup 92. Imran Khan lifts that crystal trophy, beautiful. And it was almost like, wow, I wish I could do that. I wish I could do that. Crystal trophy, yes, but run someone out like Jaunty did. Change the game. And that's where it came from. My dad, my uncle, they all used to play cricket because, like I'm saying, if you're not watching, most were even playing girls, boys, backyard cricket, school cricket. But I happened to be a member at the Karachi Gymkhana Club, where there was an under 13s, under 15s, under 17 boys team. My dad used to play veterans cricket there. So one day went along and figured out, and I was told, well, what are you doing here? Girls can't play cricket. Like, it's a boys, quote unquote, under 13s teams. Like, okay, well, disheartened, go back, and my dad said, come on, we're going to go the next day, look at bylaws and stuff, and like, right, let's fight this one. Obviously, the bylaws didn't say anything about the girls' cricket. So, played with them, played alongside, and ended up captaining the under 17 team at some point as well. So, but in amongst all of that, there's a realization that you have to be good enough to deserve a place. You're just not part of a checkbox.
Right. And it wouldn't have been a checkbox at all, actually. It'd been a cross, because they'd have wanted to get you out of there as much as possible. They'd have been trying to get you out of there. And that journey, do you feel because of that, because of kind of the resistance and all of that, that made you better?
100%. Because then you're fighting not just yourself in terms of skill and talent and getting better in the sport, but you're fighting 11 guys who are not happy because one of their friends is sitting out because of you.
Right.
So, and the best part for me, and I think it worked, was I didn't mind if I didn't get a bat or a ball. I loved fielding, and I would be more than happy running around wherever they put me. And I think slowly they realized, well, she's probably not that bad. And they're obviously best of my mates now, and they all say, well...
Really?
Oh yes, they're always like, put their hand around my shoulder, like, do you know why she got into the Pakistan side? We helped her. Like, really?
So they take all the credit after kind of saying, right, over there, you know, yeah.
What are you doing here?
Yeah, I suppose that's how kind of stuff works, isn't it? It's the way of life, really. Sometimes the people you come up against and fight against end up being really good mates.
Yeah.
Nice story, that. And I suppose it led to captaining Pakistan. It led to a life in cricket.
It did, because there was all male cricket on TV, on the news. There was very little knowledge or information about women's cricket. And you sort of read back and you should know your history and all of that. But then I was again in the same club playing, and then sort of somebody came along saying, well, there's two girls here looking for female players. And somebody's pointed you out to them. So I go up and talk to them, and they're obviously Pakistan's first ever female captain, Shaiza Khan, and her sister Sharmeen Khan. This was 2004. And they were looking for a venue and female players just to consolidate a team of 15 to put up against the one test in the 7 one-day international that West Indies was coming for. And that's how it started, because in the beginning, it was about just getting 15.
Right.
And I remember it's a funny story, because if you were half decent at that point, you would have gotten picked, because there weren't enough to just consolidate a 15 for the side. So we were playing this test match at the National Stadium, my debut, and Kiran Baloch has scored the most magnificent 242 not out, still a world record in women's test history. And we come out to field, and because there's about 8 of us who know how to play the game, and there's 3 or 4 of us who are just girls who are there filling a side. So the captain tells them, well, you stand mid-wicket, blah, blah, blah. And they're just standing and looking at her, and she's getting angry because they have no idea what mid-wicket or mid-off or anything or whatever it is. Right, so then like we help her, like, okay, you stand there. And after a little while, they don't know where to go, because obviously it's just grass, right?
Yeah.
So they were then told to shove like a tissue or a leaf or something, make the mark prominent. Wind blows.
Away goes.
3 overs later, they're all pulled up in a corner around mid-wicket. You're like, and now the skipper's bowling, she's losing them. What are you guys doing there? It's like, well, that's where our tissues are.
I can see many taking all of that the wrong way, by the way. What a story.
Again, it's stories that are unheard of, unseen, but it's all part of the bigger story of Pakistan women's cricket, where everybody's played their part, everybody's done their share. And there are hilarious, but again, you look back and they're like amazing stories, which like you share a smile and tell somebody like, really? International test cricket?
Yeah.
But true, very true.
Tell me about captaining Pakistan.
Every time someone asks me that, it's again just goosebumps, because such a honor in its own to sort of don that blazer with the green star on your chest. One in so many who would only dream to be in that position. So an honor which you're always grateful for, but also with that you realize the responsibility on your shoulder in terms of the kind of image you want to portray for the country on a larger scale. Given Pakistan and where it lies in the global eye, and then you can do your little bit in terms of that, because when you're captaining, you're speaking to a lot of people, post-match presentations, even sort of how you and your team conduct yourself on social gatherings, how we talk to people. And in amongst that, then obviously the cricketing aspect, where we were a very newish side to women's cricket. Pakistan, when I started playing, was 2004-05. That's when the ICC and the IWCC merged, so all women's cricket came under the PCB. So to captain a young side, our average age was, say, 21. Brilliant, because the girls, in terms of passion, extraordinary, because you want that passion to lead the sport, essentially. Because from a skill set point of view, an experience point of view, we're far below the graph compared to other teams. But from a passion point of view, it was just like, just wanting and hoping for to do something extraordinary, to win one game against all odds stacked up against us. So in all of that, and because you're at that group where everyone is on the same wavelength in terms of skill and mental strength, but again, like I keep saying, the passion driving you towards that one goal, the response you get out of the team is at that same wavelength that you are. So again, just from a holistic point of view, to have that opportunity to lead a country in an honor in its own right, but then to do little bits for the game, which somewhere along the path, when the team does something now and wins trophies or gets to places, somewhere along the lines you've put those little steps and you've laid the path in terms of, and even from before me, but then, and you can almost say that we played our part right.
So, who do you take over from? Who do you hand over to? And how much of an understanding of history, the battle, the kind of journey to prominence, to the space required for women's cricket in Pakistan, but women's cricket in general, is in your mind, and how much of it are you aware that it's kind of necessary at the time?
I think it's hugely important to know your history from a country's point of view and from a global point of view. Look at the global point of view and you see, and a lot of people you talk about this, that the first ever cricketing World Cup was a Women's World Cup. It was prior to the Men's World Cup, but it hasn't obviously gained the same momentum or the same popularity in terms of the men's game, which has obviously taken off. You look at Pakistan women's cricket, women's cricket started in 1996. But from 96 up till 2005, it was under the IWCC, which was the International Women's Cricket Council, which was a separate entity and ran parallel to the ICC. And then the captain was Shaiza Khan, with a sister, Sharmeen Khan, and Kiran Baloch was. So the three of them and the numerous other players played along that time as well. So 2005 is when ICC and IWCC merged and PCB came over, and there was a little bit of a sort of a battle for who sort of keeps control of the women's game in the country, but it had to be given to the official, to the PCB. That's when the reform came in, and that's when I came into the system. So I happened to play with Shaiza and Sharmeen prior to the PCB, and that was my debut. So I debuted in 2004 as a test match at the National Stadium, now called the National Bank Stadium, against the West Indies, who were here for 1 test and 7 one-day internationals. And Shaiza was the captain then. And then the next series from there was under the PCB. And so Shaiza Khan was our first captain. Sana Javed was my second captain, Pakistan's second captain as well, which was under the PCB. Maybe Sharmeen and Kiran might have captained in one off match prior to that time if Shaiza was not available, but during that entire length, Shaiza Khan was the captain, Sana Javed, and then I became captain. I was vice captain when Sana was captain. This was 2005, and 2006 is when I captained the side. So that was how. And then I captained up till the 2009 Sydney Cricket World Cup in Australia. And then Sana Mir took over from after me, and I continued to play to play 2 T20 World Cups after that, the 2009 World Cup in England and the 2010 T20 World Cup in the West Indies. So in terms of Pakistan cricketing history, yes. In terms of global women's cricket, there are countries and teams that have done remarkably well in terms of infrastructure, valuing the women's sport as equal to the men's sport and not as a sort of a secondary, or I sometimes call it an extra appendage to the men's sport, because it is a separate entity in its own right, and you at least need to respect it and value it as the same as the men. I can understand there can be an argument with regards to the facilities and the finances not being the same, which is understandable. But it's got to start from within. So when we as a board value the sport as the same, automatically things become better. And you've seen that with the likes of India, Australia being the prime example, and hence why they're miles ahead of everyone else in all formats. And England as well, they've tried to change and remodel their structures. Franchise cricket is doing its part as well. So you look at it from a global point of view, women's cricket has come leaps and bounds, and it is right up there with any women's sport at the moment.
Okay, I want to shift you because whilst I absolutely love talking about cricket, generally in sort of the job we do now, which I'll ask you about a bit later on, and the reason I don't ask about it now, commentary and all the rest, is because I'm very curious to understand about this other passion you have, which you can tell them. What is your other passion?
Teeth.
Teeth. Is that why yours are in such a good line and all the rest? You made sure you sorted yours out first?
Well, I think I just got a good share of genetics. So, to be brutally honest.
Okay, good genetics, and you listened to mum and dad when they said brush your teeth and floss them and all the rest. Now you tell other people that, right?
Well, yeah, just, I mean, you want to stay away from the scary dentist, just take care of your teeth. It's fairly simple, right? But then life is too short and you want to enjoy your desserts and be a little bit naughty and then not listen to parents, as we've all done. So yeah, I mean, that is what it is. I mean, my parents started their private practice in 1980. And I remember when my mum used to pick us up from school, because school was about 5 minutes from the practice, and she would take a couple of hours in the afternoon off to pick us up, wind up at the practice and then take us home, and then if she had an afternoon clinic, otherwise not. And so my sister would sort of sit back on the sofa, relax, eat something or watch TV or just want to go home, and I would be standing on top of my dad's head on a stool trying to figure out what's going on, you know. So I was always intrigued.
Inside somebody's mouth.
Well.
Some poor patient had no idea, and there was this kid. They go, right, let me at him.
Give me this, I'm going to yank this one. But so that's where it starts. I was actually always intrigued because you see people walk in who are sort of crying and they're swelling, and you just see them walk out and they've got a bit of a smile on their face. So pain relief is quite magical. But the things that you can do on something that tiny, it's brilliant.
Yeah, and the pain that you can get from one of these things that are that tiny is absolutely ridiculous. Both mum and dad dentists?
Both mum and dad dentists. I'm a dentist, brother's a dentist. We do have one smart sibling.
And what does the sibling do?
She is a graphic designer. And she said once to me that I don't understand how you voluntarily chose to look into someone's dirty mouth.
It's fair enough.
And when you put it that way, yeah.
So she doesn't work with you, with all of you?
Nah. She does freelance graphic designing.
Okay. No space for graphics within dentistry?
So she does. She does sort of a bits and bobs of our marketing bit. But yeah, she, as and when required, we're like, right, sort this out for us, set this campaign up for us, and yeah, so bits like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how, was that just normal? Was that just a case? And I know when we talk about it, you know, as she's just done, we'll kind of go into the whole thing, and it's like, it's almost sort of instinct and second nature, and you go on and on about it, right? But was that just kind of the course because that's what your family did?
You could say yes, because you're sort of, never was I forced or pushed into it, but maybe out of just curiosity and an inclination because they had a private practice set up. Yeah, maybe. But I would like to think primarily it was my choice out of interest to go into the field, as opposed to being sort of nudged and pushed towards that. It was more so my choice. Because I think the generation that I'm from, there was a shift where you wouldn't just become a teacher, engineer, doctor, and that was it, because your family's business, because they did that. But there was more scope and vast thinking in terms of options, because of the international, I would say, college or university options available in various other fields and scope.
Okay, so tell me about balance then, because cricket obviously also from the age of 7 always exists, and you always play. Your dad plays in the veterans and has his practice. And did you feel, in order for me to play cricket, you know, dentistry, school, university, all of it needs to take a back burner, or just carries on as normal? How was the balance of that?
Up to a certain point, it was fairly like, you have kids who do their school bit and then kick off extracurricular activities. I'm sure your kids as well would play various sports, and that would just be the order of the day. And then you would have a birthday party in there somewhere in between or whatever. But up till I joined dental college, which was 2004, which was bang on with my debut international career, is when I was like, right, it can't go on 100% either way. The only thing that I think back now where it might have been slightly different or easier compared to now is we didn't have as much cricket in the calendar year as opposed to now.
Right.
But what I always did have, my dental textbooks would always be in my kit bag. So when I was on tour and whenever there was sort of time off, I still had to be studying because I was still fighting that battle with university, where again, because women's cricket wasn't a prime sport or something that was recognized, or not a lot of people knew about it, and not a lot of people also cared whether we were in the national team or if I was a captain or not. So you're fighting that battle within your university, who's not cutting you any slack.
Yeah, with lecturers saying, come on, get your assignments in.
Yeah, and you weren't here for 14 days and, you know.
Yeah.
So there came a point where second year final dental exam clashes with the Asia Cup, bang on date for date. And I just go back, Mom and Dad, what do we do? He's like, listen, you can't miss your dental exams, right? Like, because that's the general, you would imagine would be.
That's kind of what Mom and Dad expected you to do. Even though they encouraged you to play, it was just play, right?
Yeah. Well, and just play. And then the fact that women's cricket, we're not really going anywhere with this. And then if you skip this, the university is not going to give you any more chances. And so I went to my university professor and he said, call your parents. We went back the next day. He said one line, hello. He said one line. He said, if you don't let her play cricket, I won't let her sit for the exam.
How good's that?
That is amazing. And I still to this can not be more grateful and thankful for what he said, because that was a realization that there's a mindset change where there's people who are actually value the women's game, value your position in the game, and almost feel proud that you're associated with their university and provide you that platform.
But more than that, you know, it's not a you have to do this and not that scenario. Yeah, it's not a choose right now, because there is the possibility for you to be able to do both. And when you have that realization, then you can be more, can't you?
It's almost like then you're more empowered, and then it's up to you whether you make it work or not.
Yeah.
And obviously there was conversation around, so when you're done with all of this, you come back and then we can schedule exams for you and you can give them separately, and that's fine.
Right.
But it's not the end of the world. You don't play cricket, that's not coming back.
Correct.
Right? But I can still pull strings here and get you to sit for your exam later. And that's you're captaining your side. So you're absolutely right. It was nothing that I would have ever imagined would have come at me in terms of that. And so, yeah, that was brilliant.
Okay. Who's the professor? Who's the lecturer?
Dr. Bakar Askari. He was the owner and the dean of the university.
Okay. Well, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Dr. Askari, I tell you what, you don't know what you've done there. And there'll be people who will watch this and see this, and whatever they take from it in terms of the situation could take that, I don't have to do it now. You still have to, you know, get yourself into first and second and third and pass all the years and balance it all together. But you can go after those dreams and you can become a dentist. Now, shift along.
Go on.
The most important job of them all is motherhood. And there is a necessity to balance, because now not only must you pull teeth out of people's mouths and reconstruct and aesthetically make people look really nice. As kids you do, right? Generally.
Kids, and aesthetics.
Yeah.
For adults.
Kids and aesthetics, right? Adults sometimes vain, sometimes necessary. Kids very necessary.
Oh, very important.
There you go. How do you manage? Because you're in the clinic, you know, and then you're in the comms box with us, and then you have to be mommy.
Oh, I tell you, mommy is priority, right up there. It's because some things are just more important in life, and those little things matter. So, like for instance, I left a couple of games in Multan because the little one had a sports day. So, no matter how big or small her part in the sports day, it's just that when she scans the horizon, she should be able to see mom, because mom travels and mom is away. So that is right up there. So with the little one, I try and schedule things in a way where her daily routine is, I don't sort of mess with that too much. So we drop her to school in the morning, I have set days to pick her up, set days to take her for basketball and sit there and like cheer her on. So those things are there. Things for bedtime routine, or we go to the club or anything. So as much of that still remains priority and right up there with importance. However, because I've been doing this since she was about 4, and that was slightly more difficult because you can understand working mothers, but then working mothers who don't come back at home at night, slightly different, because if I'm traveling and I'm away for 4 days, 7 days, this time around SA20 was away for a good 20 days. So I started talking to her and telling her that, you know, this is part of how mom and dads work, and it's just not your mom, examples of other mothers as well.
Yeah.
Just to make sort of her eventually understand that it's all part of life. It's not like that mom's abandoned her or disappeared off the horizon or thinks she's enjoying playing cricket or whatever. So all of that. And I think talking to her and making her part of those conversations is now putting her in a better place. She'll have her off days. She'll call me up on FaceTime one day. She's like, that's it. I've had enough of this. You're being mean. You've gone so many days. You've been away so many days. So it's part of that, right? And then there's times where I'll FaceTime her and she'll say, I'm busy. I can't talk to you right now. I'm like, okay then. And it's all part of that. But I think creating a balance is very important. And I compromise at the clinic and in the commentary as opposed to compromising with that.
Okay. If I said there is, I don't know, and I suppose all the hard work's done before, whilst you're kind of learning, going to school, becoming a dentist, playing cricket, all the many sacrifices and the difficulties then are somewhat rewarded by this ability to be able to prioritize, you know, and the chit chat with her is an exercise in probably self-placation rather than the kid. I might seem like I'm talking about myself. I probably am, right?
But he's absolutely right.
As well, you know, do you know what I mean? Like, so,
100%.
So there's some who might not have the choice to say, I'm coming home, or I want to come home. I'll come and watch your basketball game. And I don't know if you've come across in terms of people you've played with or people you work with, where that is a difficulty and kind of difficult to balance. And I want to understand your awareness with all of that.
It's not other people. There's been times when I've had to go through that situation where the choice isn't a choice. There is no choice, and it's something that just has to be done. And you need to understand that it's not going to be all happy-go-lucky. There will be ebbs and flows with moods and how the day goes, but sometimes it's a realization of, well, it's just something that has to be done, and we might not like it. But there will be an end to this, and there will be. But I think with that, if you've got a support system or of a family or a partner, and my partner, I mean, most of what I do is only possible because he is as hands-on and as supportive, especially with the little one, and obviously my family as well goes with it. But that is something that also has a fallback option if you have. But there's a lot of people who don't have those options, where you have to choose, and then it's one or the other, whether you let go of what you want to do as a passion or a livelihood, or you let the kids grow up in a time where it's mom's away for a week, or she works 9 to 9, or whatever it might be, or mom does nights and dad does days, or whatever it might be. So those are all possibilities and realizations as well.
I'm going to shift you to coming into the game for young women, young girls who become young women, whichever way, and the wrestling with many things that most of us guys probably would never even think about. There's not a lot goes on in a guy's mind. It's kind of goals over there, and away you go. That's the goal, and you go at it, single-minded, away you go. Share with us a little bit, whether it's kind of your own thought process or you're being in touch with the younger women these days who now play for Pakistan and other countries and franchises and so forth who have to go through that journey?
I think you're right, because when you talk to guys in the same sport, in the same dynamic, like you're saying, that's one single track and off you go. But for women, and I talk about Pakistan first, primarily you're looking at, can you earn out of it, primarily. Then fight the culture or even an internal home matter in terms of whether you'll be allowed to play and step out. Right? We've had
allowed.
We've had people whose immediate families be like, that's it. You're not playing the sport. You're not getting out of the house to play the sport. Then to sort of travel abroad, or when it comes, as much as some might not agree, but marriage as well. Like, you got to get married. That's the end of the sport there. So there's a
So the marriage would end the sport.
End the sport. In most cases. Now, our former captain, Bisma Maroof, is a prime example of that not happening. Very supportive family, supportive husband, encouraged her to play post-marriage, and she captained the side. She even went on to have a baby girl and continued to play and still does. So you've got those examples which are probably hugely important, at least in our part of the world, in our society, where you sort of pave that path as well as stay involved with the game to create role models who've actually done it. And I think that is important. So, but then there's more stories on the other side where things are cut short because of so many other reasons. So there are a lot of things in terms of that you have to think about, whether you can make a livelihood out of this. And in Pakistan, that came a lot later, where the cricket, and this I'm still talking about international level. You can still make a decent living out of it now. At domestic level, we're still far behind, but it's getting better.
Right.
It's getting better. Compared to the rest of the world, you'd probably have to pool it in terms of which country you're talking about, because obviously in that part as well, again, Australia, England, India would be far ahead on that curve compared to the other countries in terms of finances. So those are the kind of things that you would consider and the thought process that would be going behind. And the other thing is that in terms of what you do after the sport. So do you just sort of marriage and homemaker and carry on there, or how do you stay abreast with the sport? How do you stay involved with the sport? And that's again something that is now changing with selection committees, with coaching roles, with commentary and broadcasting roles. So that is really good in terms of the thought process not being as hindered as it would have been prior.
If you were to advise pick an age, 15-year-old girl who absolutely loves the sport and is very keen to be the next Bisma Maroof, and to be the next Urooj Mumtaz Khan, to be the next Sanamir, to be the next Marina Iqbal, as player, right? As player first, and then as, post that, we don't know if they'll remain involved, if they'll like it enough, or but this is, 15 is probably time for a bit of a choice when you're a young girl, What would you advise them?
Firstly, and I've always believed this and I always say this, that the biggest obstacle in anything is you yourself, and the way you think and the way you put hurdles for yourself in your own mind, or you don't. And that's why I feel that whatever you think is most often where you end up, always. So for yourself, always dream or aim to what you want to, because once you overcome your own thought process, things become a lot more easier. Nothing is ever going to be straightforward in any field. It could be anything. You always got to work hard. There'll always be obstacles. There'll always be hindrances. There'll be people that you'll have to fight. There'll be systems that you'll have to fight. But once you've sort of got it down in your head that this is what I want to do, this is what I want to become, and you go for it, that is by far the biggest thing. That is, for me, that's always been the case. And honest to yourself, to your work, and to your team primarily is hugely important. You don't step on other people's feet to go get somewhere, because it comes around at some point. But in terms of cricket, if that's where your passion lies, if that's what you want to do, there's nothing stopping you from doing it. Because there's a Disney movie called Sing, in which there's a little koala who says, when you hit rock bottom, there's only one way left to go, and that's up. So if there's ever a time where you think this is it, well, you're only going to go back up. And that just depends on your motivation, your self-belief. And when you can kick yourself up and running again, you can fight the battles better.
Thanks, Urooj.
Pleasure.
One more thing left for Mulan to do. It's for you to tell them to subscribe to this channel. This channel is called Mbangwa Media.
Mbangwa Media. Right, guys. One of my favorites in the commentary box. One of my favorites. There are very few. He's right up there. He's probably one of the best. I thoroughly enjoy listening to him. And I do try and pick his brains, because what he does and how he does it is extraordinary. And I always feel very privileged to work alongside. But what he brings to the table in terms of content for you guys is brilliant. So if you haven't already subscribed to Mbangwa Media, I don't know what you're waiting for. So hit that subscribe button, get your friends and family, get it out on social media, and watch this and a lot more.